last one, you got it in the second last one.
Call the January 7th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Please call the roll.
Barsh. Barnett.
Here.
Bauman.
Here.
Bullinger.
Here.
Tamakis.
Yes.
Holculture. Coop.
Here.
Larsh. Lushes. Sorry. Offerdo.
Present.
Severson.
Here.
Wagonist.
Yes.
Oh, all right. So we have a quorum.
All right. Rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of the November 25th meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Coop and second by Bauman to approve the November 25th meeting minutes.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, call the roll. Sorry
Yep.
about that.
So Barnett.
Yes.
Bauman.
Yes.
Bullinger.
Yes.
Tamakis.
Yes.
Coop.
Yes.
Offerdo.
Yes.
Severson.
Yes.
Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. Sorry, yesterday I chaired a committee that we don't do roll call, so changing gears. The first item of real business for tonight is a request on an application by Arlene Avery to subdivide property described as Outlot 12 and an unplatted portion of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter, Section 32, Township 155 North, Range 82 West, in Ward County to create a one-lot subdivision to be known as Avery's Addition Lot 1, and to rezone the property from AG Agricultural District to RA Agricultural Residential. Property is located at 3300 County Road 19 South. We'll turn it over to city staff for the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here on the slideshow, there's a location map. This property is located in southeast Minot off of County Road 19 South, kind of across from the quarry. You see Highway, that should say Highway 52, not 83. And so it's down in that area. What's going on here is there's an existing Outlot 12, which is shown in the yellow on this particular slide. And the people that live there would like to add the abutting property, I guess, that's shown in red. So that, and that's unplatted. You can see it kind of fades off to the left side of the screen. And they want to connect the dots and make this all one lot to be known as Avery's Addition Lot 1, containing 3.78 acres. And as you know, agricultural zone, AG, requires 20 acres of property, and these don't have near 20 acres. There's only 3.78 when it's all combined, so it needs to be rezoned to something else. Here it is, the current ag zoning, and we're suggesting it be zoned RA, which would be appropriate. The land use map shows this as very low density residential, which is goes hand in hand with the RA zoning, agricultural residential. This is the subdivision plat itself. It shows the house. There's an outbuilding there, and that property actually slopes off quite rapidly from the highway down, quite a bit of topographic relief. So pretty straightforward, just a single lot subdivision. Findings of fact, the applicant has submitted a complete application. The request is consistent with the comp plan. It meets all the bulk requirements of Minot zoning ordinance, which would be like setbacks and lot area and that kind of thing. And then kind of boilerplate language that says that we've met the requirements for public notice, legally posted, and we're holding this hearing to meet the requirements of the Century Code and our local Minot City ordinance. So our recommendation, there's really no special conditions. This comes straight out of the ordinance. This is basically boilerplate language that says that for this to be finalized, that it has to be submitted to the city engineer, and then there's some process here that talks about what has to be done so it can be recorded at the recorder's office. So kind of just some legal boilerplate language that we want to include in all of our staff reports. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody that wants to speak on this agenda item, either for or against? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commissioners.
Motion to approve based on the recommendations and staff finding of facts.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Offerdahl to approve based on findings, fact, and recommendation, and seconded by Commissioner Bauman. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will call the roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Bollinger,
Yes.
Tamakis,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Wiganist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. The fifth item on the agenda, second item of business, is a public hearing on an application by Bakken Development Group, Minot One LLC, to subdivide property described as lots 10A through 18B, Block 6, Statesboro Edition, and the vacant portion of Kodiak Street Northwest to create a 9-lot subdivision to be known as Ramstead Heights 5th Edition, and also to rezone said property from R4 Planned Residential District to R1S, Single Family Residential District with small lot flexibility. Property is located north of 32nd Avenue Northwest and west of Kodiak Street Northwest. Turn it over to staff for the report. I believe we've got some experience with this area of town.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. I think everyone will probably recognize this is the area, used to be Statesboro and Idlewild, and now it's being replatted in recent months to the Ramstead Heights name, I guess. These are those smaller lots that were originally platted for duplexes, twin homes that are 30-foot wide, and we're basically combining each of those two into one to make a 60-foot wide lot. So you can see them here. Each two of those gets combined into one and makes a 60-foot lot, which fits perfectly with the R1S, single family with small lot flexibility zone. And that's why this property is slated to be rezoned to R1S. You'll see here in this slide, this shows the existing zoning, but all the yellow you see there is previous applications that have come through this body and on the council to do exactly what we're doing here today. So this kind of completes that block there on the west side of Kodiak Street. The land use map shows it as medium density residential, which single families, duplexes, and even apartments are allowed in that zoning. So, or in that type of land use, those types of zonings are allowed. So I don't see any reason to alter or change the future land use map at this time. This is a subdivision, 18 lots being made into 9. And again, pretty straightforward. You've seen this before. Findings of fact, complete application, consistent with the comp plan, meets the bulk requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we're holding this public hearing tonight to meet the requirements of the Century Code and our local laws. There are some recommendations or conditions that go with recommendation here. Number 1, Kodiak Street Northwest, 32nd Avenue Northwest, and Hunter Avenue Northwest need to be removed and replaced to city standards using the 2019 specifications and details. And number 2, abandoned utility services must be capped at the utility mains. The third item is that boilerplate language again that talks about the city engineer reviewing the final plat and taking it through the process to get it filed at the county recorder's office. So with that, I would be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Is there any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. If there is anybody that wishes to speak on either side of this application, please come on up. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the commissioners.
Move to approve based on staff's finding of facts, conditions, and recommendations.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coop to approve based on findings, fact, recommendations, and second by Commissioner Offerdahl. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Bollinger, Demakis,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. Moving on, next item is, looks like a piggyback kind of off the last one. A application by Bakken Development Group 1, Minot 1 LLC to subdivide property known as lots 1A through 9B of Statesboro Edition to create a 9-lot subdivision being known as Ramstead Heights 6th Edition and to rezone from R4 Planned Residential District to R1S Single Family Residential District with small lot flexibility. Turn over to staff for the report.
Yes, sir. So the last one was 5th edition. This is 6th edition. So basically, it's just on the other side of the street on Kodiak there, what we were just looking at, and taking 18 lots and combining them together to make 9. So we could kind of go ditto, ditto, ditto on this with these slides. It's R4, we're changing it to R1S. We're not going to change the future land use map. There's the subdivision. These lots, because they're only 60 feet, hopefully they're providing a more affordable alternative for smaller lots, for starter homes or empty nesters that don't want to take care of a big yard. Findings of fact are the same as the previous item. Everything's complete and in order. Staff recommendations are the same as the last item as well, with the replacement of the street and capping the utility mains, capping the services at the main, and then the kind of standard language about filing the final plat with the recorder and the responsibilities and the process the city engineer has to do with that. So with that, if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the commission? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this agenda item, for or against, please come forward. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Turn over to the commissioners for a motion.
I move to approve based on staff findings of fact, recommendations, and conditions.
Motion by Commissioner Bauman, is there a second?
Second it.
Second by Commissioner Severson to approve based on findings, fact, recommendations. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will call the roll, please.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Bollinger, Demakis,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. Very good. Final item on tonight's agenda is a zoning ordinance text amendment. Application by Brian Billingsley, representing the city of Minot, to amend section 30-5I of chapter 30 of the Minot zoning ordinance to remove the public hearing requirement from actions required by city council on text amendment applications, rezoning applications, conditional use permits, and interim use permits because the public hearing requirement is satisfied at the planning commission meeting, the results of which are contained in the written recommendation to the city council from the planning commission. Brian, if you would like to maybe make a quick explanation, or Lance, I'm sorry, whoever,
Sure.
sorry.
So, as the chairman stated, this is a city promulgated action. We're trying to avoid repetition and save time in processing applications. Basically, in Chapter 30, which is administrative procedures, there's 4 different sections you see there that set up a requirement for a public hearing before the planning commission and then on also before the council. And what we're proposing here is that this amendment would eliminate the need for a second public hearing at City Council, since the requirement for public input would already be satisfied at the Planning Commission meeting. We record these meetings and we have written records, and the written record is forwarded to the council so they can see exactly if people had discussion either for or against the item and what that the reasons were and what that entailed. So we're trying to expedite the process and avoid redundancy. Here's the exact strikeout underline language where it says the council shall consider the proposed amendment, where it used to say shall hold a public hearing, after which the proposed amendment may be passed. We researched some other communities here in the state, and you can see that they're kind of all over the board. Is there a public hearing before City Council in these cities? In Fargo, only rezoning requires public hearing. In Bismarck, text amendments and rezonings, yes. Conditional and interim uses, no. Grand Forks, yes across the boards, and Jamestown, no across the boards. So I guess we're kind of like Bismarck now, and we're wanting to be like Jamestown, if you want to look at it that way. But as a fact, certain agenda items currently require public hearings at both Planning Commission and City Council. In the interest of streamlining the processing of these items and avoiding redundancy, staff proposes a text amendment to the zoning ordinance that will reduce public hearings to one instead of two. Text amendment maintains the public hearing requirement at Planning Commission, but removes the requirement at City Council level. Research of other communities within the state show that each community approaches the public hearing process differently. Our recommendation is to approve this text amendment as it's been presented to you tonight. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a slight concern, I guess, in the form of a question. We are an advisory board, and as such, we don't make any determination. Council makes that determination. Is this going to end testimony, or, I guess, for lack of a better term, statements from applicants or the public at that level? Or is that still going to be an option for them in front of council if they don't like the advice that we have given?
Mr. Chairman, it would be my belief that the mayor who runs the meeting would have the discretion on whether or not he would want to allow public comment during that meeting. It's not going to be required of him to run a public hearing, but he can certainly, if people want to address the council, he can certainly bring them up to the front and have them address the council and any concerns that they may have.
I appreciate that input. I guess I'm not real, from my position, I'm not real comfortable with this because, again, we're an advisory board. Yes, we hold the public hearing and that's great, but a lot of those things that are said here need to be said to council. And if they're not going to listen, if they don't have to listen to them, I don't like this. I want that hearing still at the council level. Mr.
Chairman, all these meetings are recorded, and the aldermen and the mayor have the ability to watch these meetings and watch the testimony. Some of the aldermen, like Alderman Padragula, is in the audience tonight. He can watch it firsthand here as well. There will be chances for them to review the written minutes along with the video of the hearing as well.
My concern isn't an alderman or the council members listening to what's said here. It's the public. That's what I'm looking out for here.
Okay.
Is my concern's the public. So I appreciate your answers. Thank you. Addresses some of my concerns with this. Are there any further questions? I'm sorry, Commissioner Baumann.
Is there any opportunity for a member of the public to ask for a review or a second look at any of the decisions that this commission makes? Is there a board of review or any kind of opportunity to just state their case again in any particular mechanism in the city?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Baumann, the only ability that the public has to appeal your decision is through a variance, because the only type of case that can be approved at this level is a variance. All other cases at this level are reviewed as recommendations, and those recommendations are forwarded to the city council, and they make the final decision. So, like, for example, tonight you're making a recommendation on whether or not to approve this ordinance amendment. The council will decide this at their next meeting, whether or not to approve through 2 readings at the city council level.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Thinking in the T-chart in my brain of pros and cons, can you tell me a little bit about what this would do in terms of streamlining or improving city operations?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Baumann, city council meetings are they're lasting longer and longer. There's quite a bit of activity that takes place at city council meetings. Last night, we had a meeting that lasted more than 3 hours, and we didn't even have any zoning items on the agenda. So this could help reduce some of the unnecessary, redundant testimony that happens. And I would imagine if there's a very controversial case, I would imagine the mayor would still open it up for public comment. I don't see why he would not allow that kind of comment at a council meeting. But this really would help us with the cases that probably are not as complicated. They're like the cases we had tonight where there was no public testimony. It would just be one less step for the mayor to go through and the council to go through at a city council meeting.
Commissioner Wagonist.
I'm just curious if the 4 items recommended are they brought up equally? I mean, are there some more common than others? Have you researched that at all? I mean, do you weight one of these items more than the other if you had to eliminate them? And I bring that question up because there's yes and no's, variance by city, so they must view it differently. Each of these items differently. So I'm curious if you have an opinion on, could we eliminate some that may not be perceived as critical or as important or as common?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wagonest, yes, in your recommendation, you can certainly make a recommendation to keep one or more of these types of cases with a public hearing. So, for example, you can go the Fargo or Bismarck route, or you can. Right now, we're actually we use the Grand Forks model where we require hearings for all 4. We are required by state law to have public hearings on annexations and appeals at the city council level. That is not changing. The only items that we're proposing to change tonight are these 4.
And Mr. Billingsley and Mr. Wegnes, to answer your question about what is more or less common, there aren't very many text amendments. Usually, there's probably more in Minot than would even be in other communities, just because we've been working with the Zoning Ordinance Steering Committee. But relatively speaking, they're not that common. Rezonings, yes, we see a lot of rezonings. Conditional use permits, quite a few of those, but not very many interim use permits. So, any of these could come up at any time. They're all treated the same currently as required hearings, and so the approach was to treat them all the same and not require hearings with the amendment.
Commissioner Offerle.
I guess I'm kind of thinking the same way some of you guys are here. Most recently here, we had in Eastside States, we had an MH1 that was getting rezoned, which we did not recommend that it get rezoned. And after some of the neighbors came up to the public hearing during the city council meeting, they reversed our decision. And I think there's some value to adding that second portion of that public hearing. Sometimes people can't always make it here on the planning commissioning. They got another opportunity to go to city council. So I would say for rezoning, for sure, I think I would feel more comfortable if that was a dual public hearing. But I was just bouncing that off the top of my head on something that happened most recently.
Mm-hmm. Anything further from the commissioner in terms of questions for city staff? I guess, one last piece from my end after following up with what Commissioner Offerle had to say. I think rezones and conditional uses are important, and I think those people that have an opinion on that need to be heard. I understand there's discretion, the chair has a lot of discretion in a lot of things. That doesn't mean that the chair is going to allow comment, and I have a hard time taking that away from the public. I don't care who the mayor is. They can just decide, I don't want to hear from you tonight, and you're up the creek. So that's my side on this. How we would choose to proceed is, is up to the commission on how we choose to proceed.
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe this is
Commissioner
for
Barnett.
the city attorney. I know that there are certain laws that govern, these public meetings and public hearings. I guess what I want to know is does this amendment, presented, how does it align with those public meeting requirements that are required, by law and statute? I think you guys touched a little bit that maybe it was only annexations and appeals that were required. So I just want to get some clarification on what exactly is the requirement.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Barnett, state law does not require cities to hold public hearings for any of these 4 applications, okay? Only for annexations and appeals. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything further question-wise for the city staff from the commission? Okay, seeing none, is there any motion that wishes to be made?
I'll make a motion to approve, no hearings required for the text amendments or interim uses going forward.
Motion by Commissioner Wagoness to approve the language as in regards to text amendments and interim uses, continuing to have a public hearing before the city council for rezones and conditional uses. Is that
Do not require the text amendments or interim uses.
Right, to not require
Right, okay,
a
just
hearing
wanted to
for
be
text
clear.
amendments and interim
Yes.
uses, but to continue a second hearing for rezones and conditional uses.
Right, and then, of course, as it goes to council, the mayor has the right to have a public hearing if he wants or whatever on those items.
Gotcha. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Koo. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we will call the roll, please.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Bollinger,
Yes.
Demekis,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Severston,
Yes.
Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion carries. And that is the end of the agenda from what I see. We are adjourned. Thank you all.